What's going on, people, and welcome back. This is a video I know a lot of you are going to be excited for. This is a UK drill tutorial using only Waves plugins. So let's listen to what we're working with real quick.
Jump in the whip, rev it like Rory. Rap man up, no showers. Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums. Back on my blade, injecting lungs. I got work like Donald Trump. And got put in a blunt. And got put in a blunt. I'm a solo sav, I don't need no gang. I'm still trying to wet a man down like Sam. If
All right, so before I start, I want to give a big shout out to Cole the 7 or the Music 7. I'm not affiliated with him in any way, but I did purchase these vocal stems from his website. So if you want to follow along, or if you just need some drill vocals to practice with, the details are in the description below. Go check him out. I get a lot of requests to do a Central Cee type vocal. So this mix was inspired by Central Cee sound. Something I always notice in these mixes is the vocals are very dark, they're not very bright, there's not a lot of high end going on. They are present and there is high end, I'm like, it's not completely eliminated, but they're very the bottom end is very emphasized. There's not too much effects and stuff like that, just a really in your face vocal. So that's what I've gone for with this track. So let me turn off all of the effects as well and let's get into it. So first and foremost, we've got the R compressor.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported.
So we're doing like -6 decibels of reduction. The attack is on 11 and 160. It releases on 160. You can probably hear instantly that the vocals were quite boxy, quite boomy. So I wanted to clean up the low end a little bit here with this EQ.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns.
And I've done this big cut here because there was like a digital distortion, like a hissy, ringy type whistly. It was a bit of a whistle going on in the vocals. So I wanted to just do this big cut here at almost 13K, just under 13K. And there's also a little bit of dynamic EQing going on as well.
Come to the block, get bun.
Just to kind of smooth out those S's. Now I wanted to use a multi-band compressor. I don't always use multi-band compressors, but there was a lot of plosives in the vocal, and you see me use multi-band compressors a lot when it comes to smoothing out plosives. If a vocalist is too close to the microphone, sometimes it sounds too boomy, too muddy, and you get a lot of them plosives when people say P's and B's and things like that. So this multi-band compressor is just smoothing out the low end just a little bit. So check this.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums. Back on my blade, injecting lungs.
You see there as well, we've got some more de-essing type stuff going on as well. Very sibilant vocals, and again, we're trying to make it sound like Central Cee, and Central Cee's vocals are so clean when it comes to the up top information, the higher frequencies. So I really done a lot of cleanup in the high end on these vocals. Of course, just your normal de-esser, de-essing at 7K.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums. Back on my blade, injecting lungs.
Cool. And our second compressor here is the Poig Child. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums. Back on my blade, injecting lungs. I got work like Donald.
And the time constant is on 2. We're doing like -3 decibels of reduction. And then the CLA mix down.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast.
Now, I use this because, like I said, I really wanted these vocals to have a lot of low end. I want them to be warm. I want them to be present, of course. And this is usually used for like mix buses. So if you want to add some glue to your mix bus, or if you want to add some bass or treble, you slap this on there. And you don't even have to touch anything to hear what it's doing. But I did do a little boost on the bass section at 0.5. I reduced the treble by 0.8. And I've got 0.7 on the glue. And then I've turned the output down because you do get a lot of volume out of this plugin here.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums. Back on my blade, injecting lungs.
All right, so it's still, bro, there's bare stuff going on in it. Let me mute these ad-libs.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast.
All right, yeah. So you can still hear that it's quite boxy, it's quite boomy sounding. So I've done these two C6s, and there was just this whistling frequency that was really bugging me. It's like a little bit of a digital distortion. It might be from the audio interface. It might be from the mic. I don't know. I didn't record these vocals, obviously. So I wanted to use the C6 just to hone in on those frequencies.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported.
So I'm just using these two bands here, the front band and the end band, just to hone in on these frequencies here. As you can see, it's a really thin bandwidth and it's like really compressing it. I did another C6 here. Let's see what that's doing. Just that digital harshness, just trying to clean that up a little bit. So this is the final EQ I used, and this was so I could just eliminate that low end. Like you hear up until then, it's still quite boxy, and we did want low end in the vocal, but the boxiness was a little bit distracting.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums. Back on my blade, injecting lungs. I got work like Donald Trump, and got put in a blunt. I'm a solo sab, I don't need no gang. I'm still trying to wet.
All right, so you can see there it's a dynamic EQ, so it's only being activated when the frequency is really emphasized, really present. That's when it kicks in. And I'm doing that at 145 hertz. Got another cut here at 500 hertz. Got a little bit of a boost here at 1.5K to add some presence back into the vocal. Another cut here in the high end, about 4K. Like I'm really trying to emphasize to you that the whole the Central Cee sound is very, I don't know what the opposite, I don't want to say it's dark because it's not really the sound of Central Cee, because Central Cee's music isn't like this. Like the beats he uses aren't like this, where it's really, really dark, like Batman theme music. But his vocals, whoever mixed them, I think it might have been Sean D, I could be wrong, but they don't do too much EQing in the high end. So this vocal was quite sibilant. So most of what I'm doing is trying to smooth out that high end. If I wasn't just using Waves plugins, I'd be using plugins like Soothe and things like that. But we're only using Waves, obviously. De-esser at the end. With the effects, again, like I said, it's really minimal effects on the main vocal. And that's what makes it stand out so much, because it's not drowned in reverb or anything like that. So I'm using this Reverb 1, which is the R-verb on this room preset.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the south.
I don't think is that solo safe? No, it's not.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums. Back on my blade, injecting lungs.
So yeah, it's just a preset. Studio B. How do you do presets on this? I don't want to fuck it up. There you go. Rooms, Studio B. A lot of people complained that I didn't show you, man, the reverb settings on one of my last drill tutorials. So there you go. Preset. Nothing special. And then we EQ'd it. Okay. Sweet. Reverb 3, which is, look at this, the tiniest amount of reverb.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums.
Which is large plate. And then we got eighth delay.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums.
So subtle. So you probably can't even hear it when the beats.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No.
We just wanted to give it a little bit of depth without being too distracting. And then we've got the sender's called micro shift, but I changed it to a doubler for this video. So we're using a doubler here. And that's just to give it some width. So if you like, I can push it.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns.
Just a touch of it, just to give us some width in the vocal, help make the vocal sound bigger. But the whole point is keeping that vocal as dry as possible without making it sound bland. You still want to give it some space and depth, but you really want the vocal to pop out in the mix. And to emphasize that, we then make our ad-libs. We just drown the ad-libs in reverb and delays and stuff, because what that does, and this is something else that someone asked me about, if you put a lot of reverb and delays on your ad-libs and your backing vocals, it makes the main vocals sound like it's pushed forward. So the ad-libs are further back in the mix, and then the main vocals are pushed forward because there's not a lot of effects on the main vocal, whereas the ad-libs have got the hella delay and hella reverb.
Naughty, wet up or boy skin, intention to turn them gelato 40. Tour bro, we're going on a glide, no questions, I'll be there shortly. Jump in the whip, rev it like Rory.
So we just got like a phone effect type EQ there. Got a compressor. I think I just copied the compressor down. So it's the same, it's the exact same lineup, but we just got this phone EQ type thing. And also the H delay in ping pong mode in a quarter note. And then this whole reverb.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these.
All right. Now I was a little bit lazy. Usually I'd put an auto panner on there, but I don't have a Waves auto panner and I was too lazy to do it manually. But usually I would have the ad-libs panning, so it's out of the way of the main vocals completely. And I'd usually have it panning to about 40. I wanted to fill up these spaces, so when he stops spitting...
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way.
So when he has those gaps in his vocal, he does fill them with his ad-libs, but I wanted, because the vocal was so dry, I wanted to put just a little bit of a delay in those gaps.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums. And got put in the blood.
And that's just, again, to make the mix sound wider, to put more movement into the mix. I keep saying mix. You might can do a drinking game. Every time I say mix, take a shot of Henny or something. Again, another phone effect type thing. De-esser on there for some reason. Compressor. I think I just literally just duplicated the channel. Yeah, I duplicated it and added delay and reverb. The delay has to be on max because we're just trying to have the delay on this channel. We're not trying to have any dry vocal on this channel. It's just the delay going into the reverb. And one last thing with the vocals, because I didn't have the beat stems, a way that I get the vocal to kind of sit in the beat nicely and get glued together, I use this C4. I've also got this EQ here. I did want the track in general to be a little bit brighter. I can't say bright. A little bit brighter. So on this high end, I just did like a 1 decibel gain, and a little 2K gain there as well. And a 60 hertz just for that low end, just for the 808, so I can get the 808 to sound bassy. So this is the C4. And I put this, sometimes I put this on a mix bus to kind of glue the vocal on to the beat.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns. No way can I beef these bums. Back on my blade, injecting lungs. I got work like Donald Trump, and got put in a blunt, and it got put.
So we're doing just, so I started by boosting this 250K to 4K. I boosted it by 1.6 decibels. But I'm also compressing it.
Come to the block, get bun. I come from the southeast slums where people like me get imported guns.
And also the high frequency as well.
Come to the block, get bun.
So I muted these stabs, right? So I started mixing the stabs, but I ended up muting them because Central Cee on his tracks, from what I've heard anyway, I've not listened to a whole bunch of these tunes, but they generally don't have stabs or doubles or anything like that. Stabs are good and doubles are good if you want like a big sounding chorus or something like that. But in terms of like a verse, especially with drill, if you want the vocal to be really clear and clarable and you want them to stand out, allow the stab thing. That's what I think anyway. I think stabs kind of, it makes a vocal sound a little bit less punchy. It's good, again, it's good if you on like choruses and things like that. But in general, I don't like using stabs. And Central Cee songs don't really have stabs like that either. So that's little tip from me. Check out, listen, go on Spotify and just listen to bare like UK rap songs or drill songs. You very rarely hear stabs any day nowadays. Did I explain the C4 well enough? So it's just compressing the vocal a little bit on top of the beat, just to kind of glue it together. But we don't want to do anything on the low end because we don't want to lose our punch and our kick and our 808 and stuff like that. Speaking of which, I did do some stuff on the beat. So we did a filter, which I'll show you in a sec. But how we're going to use this F6 with our 2-track beat is we're going to put it in, we're going to utilize the mid-side section here. So down here you have stereo mid-size. I'm not going to go too deep into what these mean. You have to watch my next video or the video on 2-track beat mixing, blah, blah, blah. So on the sides, so you put it on sides mode, and we're just going to push this not all the way up, but we want to push this up by quite a bit because, let me solo it so I can show you. So let's solo this. So this, what we're doing is we're turning up the volume of the sides of the beat. So nothing in the center. So in the center would be like drums and things like that. But just like the widest parts of the like piano and the reverb and things like that, and we're turning it up so that the beat gets brighter, but it's not getting brighter where the vocals sit, because the vocals sit in the middle. And that's why we've done this little cut here with a mid EQ, because that's just cutting the middle. And that's where our vocals are going to be sitting, because we wanted, like I said, I want the low end of the vocal to be really emphasized. So that's why we did this cut on the mid EQ, kind of in this low part, and then on the sides we boosted it. All right? That's a very, very brief description of mid-side EQs, but I suggest that you do a little research and wait out for the video that I put up. So yeah, like really quickly in brief, the vocals are going to sit here. That's why we're cutting the mids here, and then we want the piano and stuff to be boosted around the vocals. So the vocals are going to be sitting all up in here, and everything's kind of going to be wrapped around it in theory, right? So I'm gonna, bruh, don't watch that. You can't even see it because my face is in the way. Never mind. So yeah, let's bypass it and do a before and after. So apart from that, I also wanted the hi-hats to cut through a little bit, and I wanted the kick and the 808s to be a little bit more prominent. So check this out. The F6 is pushing the hi-hats up. Anytime there's a hi-hat, it's poking up. So it's turning up just the hi-hats without turning up everything in that frequency. And the same with the kick. All right, so the way you do that is you select what frequency you want. So I wanted the... So I found the hi-hats using the solo mode. And then I turned up the range, and then you pull down the threshold until it's as loud as you want it, basically. So everything that goes below, above the threshold that you set gets turned up to this range. And the same with that kick drum. And yeah, that's a very, very brief rundown of that. But we'll get into that next time. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If this is the first video you've watched of mine, trust me, I do plenty of videos like this. So if you enjoyed it, make sure you're keeping up to date by subscribing and hitting the bell. Drop me a like if you've enjoyed this. Let me know that you guys appreciate me. It means a lot. And of course, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.